Good evening and welcome to New York City Atheists, live on tape, brought to you by New York City Atheists. I'm your host, Dennis Horvitz, the David Letterman of the Hopelessly Damned. If you were with us for the last couple of weeks, you know that we have been interviewing Jeff Henley, who is the author of this book, Beyond Reasonable Doubt, A Lawyer's Case for Disbelieving God. Can you get a shot of that? We'll try to get it from the internet too as well. And we have been discussing segments of the book, which I urge you to go out and get. But today, only because we happen to have him, and he is a lawyer, I just want to get his comments and observations on a case that, as we are in taping, is fairly recent. Something that happened, I guess this was in the first part of April of 2009. A school in the Jacksonville, Florida school district, catering, I guess, primarily to third graders and grammar school children, was a public school was having the children learn and sing a hymn, which, you see, I'm not going to read the whole song, but the first few lines go, the title of the song is "In God We Still Trust," and the first four or five lyrics go, "You can place your hand on His Bible when you swear to tell the truth. His name is on our greatest monuments and all our money too. And when we pledge allegiance, there's no doubt where we stand. There's no separation. We are one nation under Him." And I think it goes on basically to degrade and speak disparagingly of people who don't believe in God or who don't believe in their version of God. And so just to kind of, I just want to run this by him and once again welcome Jeff Henley.
Pleasure meeting.
Thank you for joining us again for this extra little segment here. So what is your take on it? What happened was that the United States District Court of Middle District of Florida in Jacksonville Division issued an order, an injunction, prohibiting this public school from teaching a Christian hymn to youngsters, toddlers, not toddlers, but grammar school kids. Now, and they claimed that it was just a part of a regular choral series, I believe it was, and that there was a secular purpose to it, and it was not intended to religiously proselytize, which, of course, I think Thomas Jefferson had an expression, bullshit. I think that's what it is. And what they've done is they have now, having been enjoined from doing that, I guess they have now issued a second song that they're trying to teach children, and this is called "Chatter with the Angels." And I'm not going to read the song to you, but basically it's kind of all about angels, and they've more or less sanitized it by removing specific references to hints to references to Jesus. But the whole idea, the whole purpose is religious, and because it's written the way it is, they're hoping to get around. So, what is your? I know you've read the order, and
I've looked at the order some. There's a parallel here.
Yeah.
That ought to just scream out to anybody who's already seen this, and we've seen this in the creationism debate.
Yes.
Once the Epperson versus Arkansas, was decided decades ago, because remember what has taken place. In the beginning, they tried to prohibit the teaching of evolution. Mm-hmm. Then later on, it's like, okay, we can't do that because the Supreme Court has decisively said that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to just try to smuggle in creationism and teach it side by side. And then it was determined, no, you can't do that. Okay, so creationism gets thrown out. Then what do? The last test was, intelligent design. And in Dover, It's the same kind of tactic, though. They each time they come back with something that's a little more palatable, because frankly, it's kind of the same way I negotiate a case. I always start up high. I always try to get my complete agenda, and of course, you're not going to get it.
Right.
And so we have the first song, and it says, God, in God we still trust. I mean, clearly, I mean, what could be more sectarian than that? Because they're by putting still in there, they're recognizing that there is a debate.
Yes.
That there is a debate, or that there's a reason why we shouldn't be having a belief in or trust in this God. So there's clearly a stated religious purpose there, and it's quite defiant.
Yes.
And then you read the lyrics about affirming, putting your hand on a Bible. Well, let me tell you this. I've tried more than 100 cases to a verdict. I've never seen, I think I might have seen maybe in a couple of instances somebody actually putting their hand on a Bible. But in Texas, and I'm sure it is in the state of New York, you swear or affirm.
That's right.
And we're not there to talk about a Bible. We want to know that the person is impressed with the need to tell the truth in those particular settings.
Right.
Well, I don't care if they're a Muslim. I don't care if they're an atheist. I don't care if they're a Wiccan. I may make a joke about them in the hallway, but really what I want to know is, did you see the accident? Did you see the shooting? Did you see the contract? Can we rely upon you to tell the truth?
And in other words, that the witness or the deponent understands that there are consequences for not telling the truth.
Absolutely.
Right.
You theoretically could be charged with perjury, although it's pretty rare. But more than anything, we're in a room, and we're going to all be looking at you, and we're going to think very ill of you if you come in there and dissemble intentionally. And, I did see it a fair amount among criminal defendants, but I think for the most part, people do try to tell the truth, but because of bias, perspective, fading memories, they alter their statements. But this particular kind of lawsuit, or this kind of this song, is, again, you can tell that all they're trying to do is manufacture an event by creating some song and then coming back and then, watering it down a little bit, when it's more than apparent there is no secular purpose here.
Right.
I mean,
it's to indoctrinate children, regardless of what their religion is.
Right.
It's to use the good offices of the state to do it.
Absolutely, plainly and simply. And then come back with a fallback position once they weren't able to do the very first thing. And probably what I find most offensive about this is how disingenuous they are. Because you come forward with something that says, in God we still trust, and then come back later on and go, oh no, what we're really doing here is we're talking about a choral music, when in fact, as the judge in this particular case pointed out, look, this isn't Bach, this is a is a song that was composed in 2005 by a bunch of country singers called the Diamond Rio.
Right. Gotcha. Right.
That's not choral music. You can.
It's interesting that the people coming from that position, they're so convinced of their ultimate truth that they will lie repeatedly, and I mean they're literally liars for Christ. Right. And
I think probably the big thing that always disturbs me the most is anybody who's going to lie about the age of the earth will lie about anything.
Will lie about anything.
Because if you can talk about something as immediately verifiable as the age of the earth or plate tectonics or something that just is just withstood the scientific scrutiny on so many levels.
And evolution in general, too.
And evolution, 140 years of thousands and thousands and thousands of trials, then why wouldn't you lie and dissemble about something as ambiguous as the lyrics of a song? Right. Or rather, as potentially ambiguous as the lyrics of a song. And again, but when you read the actual song and when you place it in the context, you know exactly what it is.
Yes.
And in the Dover case, what do we know? That textbook, Pandas of People and Pandas, all they did was they cut and paste creationism with intelligent design.
Right. They covered it over. That's correct.
And so it's just like, okay, we can't win this way. Let's go back to the drawing board and water it down, and we'll try again.
Interesting is the side note that the judge who ruled against intelligent design in Kitzmiller versus Dober was himself a believing Christian and a Republican appointee by President Bush.
That's right, who actually does believe intelligent design, but absolutely he recognized it, and he noted the repeated lies passed by the witnesses and the parties associated with the school board.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the cases is that when they, like you said before, you kind of go for what you can get the most first. But even in cases where you have hard-nosed Republican judges, there's just a line where they simply can't cross without making themselves look ridiculous or being susceptible to malpractice and all that kind of stuff. So they have to, put their foot down at some point,
I think it's a number of things. I think one of them, the precedent won't support them. They recognize that. I mean, the law is very clear.
And precedent is very important.
Absolutely.
Too,
They don't want to be reversed. They don't want to be going to the judicial conference, next year. Oh, did you see Harvey the other day? He got smacked around by the appellate court for siding with those religious nutballs.
Right.
And so part of it is just pure and simply the law is against them on it. But a big part of it is they really, judges, whatever their ideological stripe is, whether they're on the left or on the right, they also don't want needless controversies.
Right.
They really frown upon people who go out and manufacture an event. And in situations like this, it's very easy to just kind of peer behind the curtain and recognize, okay, come on, guys, you're at it again. It's more than apparent what it is that you're doing. You're wasting my time. You're wasting court's resources. Keep in mind too, judges are, even though a lot of them are elected officials, don't really like a lot of the public scrutiny that comes on with these cases because what we learned from the O.J. Simpson trial. I mean, there was a full year of a camera in a courtroom. And Lance Ito came off as a bumbler.
Yeah.
Who didn't have control of the courtroom. Right. Well, when you start, having, religious fanatics come in and have proceedings and stuff like that, and you're bringing press people in, you're sometimes creating an opportunity for a judge to look good, but you're also creating exposure when, if the media start picking up that maybe the judge, one of the things that frequently happens when there's press coverage, the judge always arrives on time to court.
Yeah.
Because then suddenly it's like, now, hey, we can't do this.
Right.
So when you manufacture a dispute that brings a lot of, undesirable coverage to my courtroom, a lot of times judges kind of, deeply resent it.
Yeah, and I think that courts in general, really, given a choice, courts don't like to get involved in religion.
No, they don't. They absolutely don't. And as I was explaining earlier, our federal rules of evidence, our state rules of evidence, frown upon it. Pure and simple. A witness testimony, Federal Rule 610, clearly says that a person's testimony is not enhanced or impaired, but certainly not enhanced by religious belief. Right. Because what happens, for several reasons, one is you don't want to have this collateral inquiry. You're in the middle of a bank robbery case, and we're now talking about the teller, and the teller's going, well, yeah, he was a man who was about 5'10", and, man, when was the last time you went to church?
Yeah.
Did you? And can we believe your recollection? Or what kind of faith are you have? And because all of a sudden now you're creating a case and controversy that's purely ancillary to the most important matter at hand.
You're generating paperwork up the wazoo.
And keep in mind too, we're also assuming a unanimity of opinion, because what happens if you get into that bank robbery case or that car wreck case, and you have a bunch of jurors in the back, and you've got three Hasidic Jews and maybe one Muslim and 5 Baptists, and maybe throw in an atheist for good measure, and all of a sudden now you've got, and then the witnesses, there were like two Mormons and other, and they're all sitting there going, well, we can't believe that person. Well, I can, because he believes what I do.
Right.
And so courts just don't want that problem at all.
It's just an unnecessary and dangerous.
It's unfair. It's irrelevant.
Yeah.
It leads into all these goat trails that nobody wants to go down.
Right.
And that's what happens when you ask a bunch of school children to sing a song like this, because all of a sudden now the 1 or 2 kids who have reasonable parents who tell them you don't need to do that, all of a sudden now they're the ones who are the focal point of the entire classroom. Because what we do know is in so many instances, people just go along with that stuff because that's what the majority is doing. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, just sing the song. When in fact, a lot of them are kind of like looking around at other girls or boys and frowning or smiling and just kind of like going, oh, great, we're going to have to sing the song again.
Yeah, yeah. Part of the reason is that part of it is just this. Like I said, it's acculturated, and it just kind of. A lot of this is just so part and parcel to our society and the way we're brought up that we kind of don't even notice it until somebody calls attention to it.
Right, and then you're the rude person in the hallway, or the rude guy at the dinner table.
What is it? The 800-pound gorilla in the living room, or whatever it is.
The elephant.
The elephant, and the bull, and the giant. All of those. So yeah, I mean, I noticed that, but this isn't the first time they've pulled this. And as you mentioned, wasn't it, Ken? Wasn't there a case where, within the last year or two, where someone tried to keep a cross on some public property, and they claimed it was a secular.
They made it on medium wire.
Right, and that it was a secular.
Yes. And also in Salt Lake City with the troopers.
Right, that's right. On the side of the road, a memorial to I guess deceased troopers, Utah State troopers that died in the line of duty, and there was a memorial that had crosses. Apparently, one of the deceased was Jewish or something like that. But they made a protest that nobody protested the memorial, but it was the idea of the cross, and then they tried to get others in the cross was a secular symbol.
Right.
You know. Well, you know, let's see how secular they feel about it when someone decides to create a work of art made out of buffalo dung or something like that.
Or I was going to say of the crescent moon and the star.
Right.
I mean, it has a very specific message.
Right.
And you can't get around that.
Yeah.
And you know, I really will say this. I mean, as much as fundamentalists sometimes annoy me. At least when they're talking amongst themselves, they're candid.
Yeah.
And if you're going to believe, then you better. I understand that, but what we really frown about that is when they enter the public sphere and they smuggle this in,
yes,
and they try to repackage it as something. And it's just like, come on, do you really think we're dumb?
Right. Well, the other message that I see by all of this, whether it's trying to introduce intelligent design into science classes, or prayer in school, or hymns in school, is that clearly they don't trust the profundity or the profoundness of their own religion, and they need the entire force of the state behind it to prop up their faith.
Oh, that's true. Oh, well, yeah.
I mean that's basically what it is, because no one religion is more profound than another, and where all religions are true, they're true anyway.
Right.
So in a certain way, in trying to promote their faith, they're showing a lack of faith. I mean, if they really believed, then they would. I guess the best thing you could say about them is, no matter how slimy and deceitful they are, at least they're not crazy enough to trust in God.
Right. Right.
There's a certain irony. I've been in arguments like that, and I've said, well, it's just highly ironic that neither of us trusts your God. But
you look at things like this, and they really are clumsy efforts. I mean, I think sometimes they hope or expect that they're going to create a bunch of free attention in the court system by doing it, because it's relatively inexpensive to file a pleading like this.
Yes.
But at the same time, it's one that just really tests your patience.
It's like throwing the pasta against the wall and just hoping that one sticks.
Right. Right. And then in the case with intelligent design, ultimately their fallback position was a First Amendment one, which was, hey, all we really want to do is have a debate here. And why you guys don't want to have a debate? It's like, wait a second, no, you don't.
Of course.
That'd be like me going into your church, standing up in the middle of a congregation, and going, now's the time. Let's have that discussion. you'd probably get bounced out on your ear.
Well, and of course, once again, they tried to get around that by saying, well, teach the controversy.
Right.
But of course, they don't want to teach the controversy. I'd love them to teach the controversy. If you teach the controversy, then you've got to accurately present both sides of the person's position.
Oh, no,
and they don't want that.
Well, and I think even more so. You would have to teach the controversy. And what I mean by teaching you would have to talk about all of the antecedent acts that they did to create the controversy.
Right.
The disingenuous acts of the fact that they used to, originally they tried to prohibit the teaching of evolution, and then they had a fallback position where they cut and pasted, or they tried to inject creationism, and then you would have to, if you were actually to teach the controversy, you'd actually have to talk about the controversy, preceding the debate. Right. And again, that's not science, though.
No, no. And
by that time, you're so far afield that...
Right, but the thing is that I mean, I know hardcore atheists that have no problem, for instance, with teaching the controversy in a sociology class, in a philosophy class.
Oh, sure.
I have no problem with them teaching the Bible as literature.
Right, I don't either.
But they don't, the fundamentalists and people in creationists, they don't want that to happen because... Problematically, if you teach the Bible as literature, you're basically saying that it has something in common with Mark Twain, with Huckleberry Finn, with Tale of Two Cities. It's as literature, and you even the playing field. That's not what they want.
No, they don't. And going back to intelligent design, there's a chapter in my book.
Yeah, I was just looking for that. I know
that treats the current legal standard for the admissibility of scientific evidence.
Right.
And ironically, it's the product of largely Republican efforts to limit lawsuits filed by personal injury plaintiffs and people suing manufacturers for anything from breast implants to asbestos and a variety of other things. Well, there is a very high burden of proof now for scientific evidence to be admitted, both you have actually a high burden of proof to even have a judge determine whether the witness can testify, much less actually have the jury even hear the evidence.
Yeah.
You put intelligent design up against that, and it just fails miserably.
Yeah.
Because all you have, you don't have any testing data, you don't have any margin of errors, you don't have any peer review, you don't have all the things that are absolutely required of scientific evidence.
You don't actually have a scientific theory of intelligent design.
Absolutely not.
There's no stated theory of intelligent design.
It's a mere inference.
Yeah.
It's frankly it's a wish.
Yeah.
But in truth, you don't have a body of testable hypotheses, and our courts don't even, I mean, they have a very high standard, and the standard is proof. And what I mean by proof is you can't come in and prove a case based upon correlative data.
Right.
You actually have to prove scientific causation if you've got like the case I cite from Texas. There's this couple who had a large orchard, and they had used a certain fungicide to get rid of. Well, it killed their crops. And then they brought in some data, and they had an expert. Well, they lost on appeal by the Texas Supreme Court because they said you didn't prove causation. You just had some correlative studies, and you didn't have any known rate of error.
Right.
And these plaintiffs, though, had gone, football fields farther than intelligent design does.
Right.
And they don't meet that. They don't meet that level.
Right. Well, anyway, let me just mention that we are talking to Jeff Henley, who is the author of this book, Beyond Reasonable Doubt, a lawyer's case for disbelief in God. I don't know, how much time do we have, Ken?
We've got about 3.5 minutes.
Well, in any case, Jeff agreed to kind of, so we've done a couple of tapings before, and Jeff agreed to stay over for another session because we were discussing this issue in Florida where grade schoolers were basically made in public school to sing what was really a Christian hymn, and there was an order of injunction issued. They were stopped, and then they came out with singing another watered down version, but basically it was the same. The intent was the same. And so I thank you very much for joining us and for staying over for this extra session. That I figured as long as we had a real live lawyer, that we'd have someone to comment on it. You can, I think we're going to be posting this on the internet in any case, but the book is Beyond Reasonable Doubt, Jeff J. Henley. They can, let me see if I have, do you have a website here where I can?
There's a website. It's available on Amazon.com, on Borders.com, and BarnesandNoble.com.
All right, you've got all the big ones. So if you...
We once were, we are no longer a Christian nation, at least not just. We are also a Jewish nation, a Muslim nation, and a Buddhist nation, and a Hindu nation, and a nation of non-believers.